Well, here we have the Behringer Vintage. It's a free synth, but you can donate by clicking up there and donating some cash. And if you download it and you do use it, why not donate? Anyway, it's called the Vintage. I'm not sure why it's called the Vintage. It doesn't look like a vintage synth, and it's not particularly vintage sounding, but it's, you know, it's a free synth. Is it worth it? Well, yes, it is. Of course it is. It's free. There are other free synths on the market, obviously. My favorite is actually the Tal Noisemaker. I use that for some tutorials on my Patreon because it's got loads of different functions on it. And what this doesn't have is every function under the sun. What it does have is its own unique way of doing stuff. I'm just clicking through the various panels here. And what we have are 2 VCOs, 1 and 2, 2 filters, and these are multi-mode, low pass, band pass, high pass, and formant. We've also got 2 LFOs. We've got a third LFO over here, a vibrato LFO. And we've got 2 VCAs, so the filters go to their own VCA. Filter 1 goes to VCA 1, filter 2 goes to VCA 2. VCA 1 has got an envelope, VCA 2 has got its own envelope. If we go from one to the other, you can see they're different. And the filters have both got their own envelopes as well. And each of the oscillators has got this pitch envelope, and that's good for doing stuff like sync, basically, and little sound effects. So 4 envelopes, 3 LFOs, and 2 pitch envelopes. You know, there's a fair bit going on in here. But what's interesting about it is the way the filters are set up. We can send each of the oscillators to each of the filters. I'm just going to go through filter 1 for the minute to keep things simple, but you can blend between which of the filters you're going to, and then VCF1 itself can be sent into VCF2. So you've got parallel and you've got serial processing. And I did make a load of little tones to run you through and show you what I'm doing with it, but it's deleted them all. It's a bit buggy. You know, it's the first day of release. I did manage to download it and set up the license. So I have to say that was a little bit annoying because I have spent a while making a few presets and I've just got this one. So I'm going to start from scratch effectively. He says after playing with the pitch envelope, let's just get that back to 0. I'm going to start from like a simple sawtooth and I'm going to make a few patches and I'm going to demonstrate how the whole thing works by doing that. The first thing I'm going to go and do is go to the VCA and just take off the velocity. And then delete. Ah, it's gone. Right. Edit, undo. So hitting delete there deleted the actual synth, whereas earlier on, hitting delete actually just turned it back to 0. So there are a few little buggy things. And use a preset so you can see it's gone. My initial patch is gone. Ah. What have we got here? So we'll try and initialize this. Let's turn everything off and just have a sawtooth. Doesn't that sound okay? Right, simple sawtooth. Let's start again. Okay. Let's go into the VCA and let's put that at 0. So I'm hitting 0 there, and that's got rid of it, and 0 there, and that's the velocity to the attack. You'll notice on these we've got linear and we've got exponential curves. Click on the node and then move it. So this is exponential and this is linear. Just gives you 2 flavors. But let's start programming this, shall we? Let's put that at 0. Put that at 0 as well, just to make things simple. I've got all these on the bottom row turned off. The oscillator, the filter, and the amplifier. So we're just listening to like a mono synth at the minute, and if we just drop the cutoff, add some envelope, add some resonance. When we click on any of the modules, the center panel reflects what module we're on. So let's add some sustain. Let's get it not quite so dramatic. And I found these envelopes a little bit fiddly, to be honest. There was one tone I was trying to create earlier and the decay didn't seem to be doing anything. This sustain time is the time it takes to drop, even when you're holding a key. So if I drop that, this should drop over 4 seconds. Is it doing it? Yeah. We can sustain all the way down. And you can hear little jumps and stuff in there. So this isn't as smooth as I'd like, really. I did think about doing some tests on it, but it's a free synth. So I thought it's just best just to show you really what it's doing, how it works, how to program some tones. Simple bass tones. It doesn't go into self-oscillation. If I take the envelope off, double click on it, it gets you back to the initial value, but that's not 0 on this for some reason. And it's really hard to get it to 0. Control is really fine control, but it's very difficult to do. So. I turn the oscillator off. We're not getting self-oscillation. Going back to the filter, we can modulate it with the LFO, keyboard tracking, or the envelope. And the envelope goes negative as well. Try and get that 0, double click, don't press delete. Okay. And band pass. And high pass. But let's stick on low pass for now. Let's keep it with that. And we'll add the second oscillator. And we can hear that slightly detuned. So let's make a little sort of paddish tone from that, shall we? Let's go to VCA 1 and let's add a little bit of release. A bit more. Maybe a tiny bit more. It's okay. If we click on master, we can change the number of voices. We've got 2, 4, and 8, and considering it calls itself vintage, you'd expect to have a 5 for like Prophet 5 and a 6 for things like the Junos there. Be quite nice, but we're on 8 voices at the minute. That's quite nice. Those envelopes cut off a little bit too quickly. Let's put it onto exponential, see what happens. It's a bit better. Let's add a little bit more release so we can click over here. Bit too much. I do find these envelopes a little bit fiddly. Drop it down a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to try and recreate a pad I really like on the Prophet. So I'm going to bring this sustain down a little bit, just so we get a little bit of a punchy transient start to the tone. And then I'm going to add an LFO to one of the VCOs. So I call it a VCO. There's nothing voltage controlled about it. Let's put that on a sine and let's modulate VCO 1. So LFO on VCO 1, 10 up a little bit. Speed up a bit. And you can hear that move in there a little bit more perhaps. As I say, I'm trying to recreate this Prophet 5 tone I really like. Not bad. Shall I try and save it? Shall I risk it? Save as Prophet 5-esque. I have done this before and it's lost it. So Starsky car, it's 80s, 90s, it's ambient, it's down tempo, it's simple, it's atmospheric, and it's analog. So save that. Type should not be empty. Okay. Pad. Save. Now that should be there in the users. It is, but later on it won't be. Trust me. Okay. So that's using a 24 dB slope. Let's put that into a 12 dB so it's more O behind me. And then let's put one of these up by 7 semitones. So we've got a semitone detune and we've got a detune as well. And let's take the LFO off. And let's make sure they're both going just to the VCF1. Let's turn it down a bit. Let's add some filter envelope. Bring this cutoff down. Bring the sustain up a bit. Again, just for a little bit of transient punch at the start. And then add some release to that as well. Sounds all right. We've got different drives here that we can use as well. Let's put a symmetrical one on. And what you tend to find with them is that you get more distortion through VCF1 than VCF2 and things like that, but I won't go into that here. I'm just trying to explain how it all works. And we'll add VCF2 now. And what we'll do is we'll send VCF1 to VCF2. We'll turn on VCA2, otherwise you won't hear anything from VCF2. And we'll put that as a high pass, shall we? So we're getting a bit of a notch here because the low pass is going into the high pass. Let's slave VCF2 to VCF1. So now I've got this panning all the other way. Let's pan them just slightly different. And then we could modulate that with the LFO. So let's modulate it with LFO1. You don't have an option with the LFOs. It's LFO1 across the top and LFO2 across the bottom. So that's quite nice, isn't it? At that speed even. Let's go back to the VCF. And you'll hear there's a delay on the LFO. Little delay there if we could take that off. Put it back on again, quite like it. And a little ramp up as well. Let's just reduce the amount of LFO there a bit. So yeah, we've got a low pass on VCF1, we've got a high pass on VCF2. We're slaving VCF2 to VCF1, so as we move this, we're changing both of them. We could put VCO2 just into VCF2. Change things up a bit. And then have VCF1 going straight to VCA1, not to VCF2. Let's unslave it. So now I've got almost like two independent synth voices. So VCF2, we could add some envelope. So you can hear different things happening there. Let's put it on a low pass, maybe. And just listening to VCA 2. I'm just listening to VCA 1. So let's just change the levels of those a bit so we can get them a bit better balanced. Nice. It would be nice to have a chord mode on this actually, but we don't have one. And you've got no effects either. Let's take that LFO off. So 0. And let's put some vibrato on instead. Use the mod wheel. Just showing us different ways of doing things. This is a vibrato, the other was like more like a tremolo, wasn't it, on the filter. And you can hear that as I'm playing louder, VCA 2 is getting louder. Let's just take off that, because I'm using a keyster and they're not the best keys. So let's go back to a single oscillator. Let's take the vibrato off and the LFO off. Let's do a bit of PWM. So we're on a square. Let's put an LFO on the width. So put the LFO back on again. Just check it's not on the VCF anymore. No. Is it on VCO? No, it's not on the pitch. So, oh, it is a tiny bit. Let's take that off. So this should be PWM. Yeah, let's take that delay off. 0, attack 0. Let's just drop that further down a bit. We don't need that much modulation. So that's how you do PWM. And then let's try some sync. So let's put it just back onto a sawtooth. The width modulation doesn't work on a sawtooth. It does on some synths, which is why I'm pointing it out. We'll go to sync and we'll add some sync. You don't need much sync at all. I was trying this like 100% and it sounded terrible. I don't know what was going on, but we'll add some pitch modulation. So sync is now syncing VCO1 to VCO2. So let's put this at 0 semitones. And there you go. You can hear sync. Let's take that release off. Just going to try and recreate that typical robot rock sync tone if I can. Not bad. Just got to balance the timing and the amount of sync. Too much. Well, that's how you do it. If you whack this up all the way to like 100%, it massively increases the frequency range. So let's bring it down. Let's bring in oscillator 2 just so we can hear what's happening. And we can hear 2 is still going through VCF2, which is quite a nice tone actually. So that's quite nice. That's a unique thing you can do with this. Cool. And then to show you the sub, I'll just turn VCO2 off, back to VCO1, stick the sub on. Let's take that pitch off. There it is. Let's play an octave higher. And they've both got a sub, so go to VCO2. Add the sub there. Let's try some unison then. We'll go to VCO1 and we'll bring in the sync again. Let's add a nice slow sync tone. Just add some time to that. Turn VCO2 off. Maybe do it a little bit quicker than that. Add some unison. So. Then add some detune. So that's unison. So unison's only on 4 voices there. Let's change it to, oh, we can only have 4. It's going to change it then to get it a bit wider sounding. So all in all, for a free synth, it's okay. I can see what they've done here. They've tried to not make it into something like a Prophet 5. They've not just been like a 106 or an SH101. They've done this thing with splitting the filters, which is a little bit like the Yamaha CS15 that I've got in the studio. So that's quite a nice little touch. There's not a lot of modulation happening. It sounds okay. It doesn't have self-oscillation on the filter. It doesn't have effects. And it doesn't save your patches. And there was some weird stuff happened with the envelopes on the filter. I would have showed you what it was doing odd if it hadn't deleted the patch. But I hope that gives you some idea of what's going on with it. And, you know, take a look, have a play with it. And if you do use it, do donate to charity. You can't argue with that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. This channel is funded via the affiliate links, doesn't cost you any more, but I get a tip, YouTube ads, and my wonderful patrons. So head over to patreon.com/StarskyCar. You'll get access to patches and samples and all sorts of other little goodies. And do take a look at my Starsky Car website as well, where there's patches and there's samples and stuff to buy, and there's free stuff as well. But, you know, I always say do pick up some of the cheaper bits and bobs. It's just nice to know that people support the channel. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for staying to the very end, and I'll see you next time.